Hey, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it's my birthday this weekend, and I'm turning 79. I always used to think that old people should be wise, and now that I'm here, I'm finding that that's not quite true. So, a birthday, I'm going to read to you a few and talk about a few things that have been said in my book that I often quote from, which is the good one, and it is the 1001 Smartest Things Ever Said. And one of the things that's said in this book said a birthday, which seems appropriate, a birthday is a good time to begin anew, throwing away the old habits as you would old clothes and never putting them on again. The other thing, growth is the only evidence of life. So you've got to be growing, and in order to be growing, surely you've actually got to be making changes. Now, I always feel to myself that change is hard won, even when you are actively on a daily basis praying and trying and striving for change of a good thing, either in your job, in yourself, changing your temper or your tolerance or your positive or negative energy. All of those things, they're all there and they can be changed, but they're hard won. Now, if you're not trying to change, I always think that life is like a pair of escalators, or one escalator that goes up or down depending on who's on the button. Well, if you're on an escalator, you're on the button. You can say whether it's going up or going down. Now, in order for life to be like an escalator, it has to be moving. So you get on the escalator, you press the button, and it'll do exactly what you want it to do. It'll go up if you want it to. Now, what happens if you change? Well, this is an escalator, the button of which is dependent on your emotion and the quality of your striving towards change for the better. And if you stop trying and you start to get a loss, the escalator starts going down again. Now, what's death? Well, death is when the escalator stops and then it becomes a staircase. It's not an escalator anymore, so life has changed very drastically. Look at some of the other things. The hardest thing to learn in life is which bridge to cross and which bridge to burn. David Russell. Some people are so much sunshine to the square inch. That was Walt Whitman. The most difficult thing in the world is to know how to do a thing and to watch someone else do it wrong without comment. If everybody minded their own business, the Duchess said in a hoarse growl, the world would go round a good deal faster than it does. Well, the thing about the most difficult thing in the world is to know how to do a thing and to know it. There used to be an old comedian called Al Reed, many hundreds of years ago. Al Reed was a student. He was a scholar of human behavior, and he was one of those early comedians in my mind who looked at the way that people behave, and he made his comments. And his comments he always made in a humorous way, obviously, because he was a comedian. But his basic scenario for most of the things, he would always say, he would start off in his own serious voice, well, we all have these things that we try to do, and we do our best, and for all of us, there's always that someone who comes along who knows how to do it so much better than us, and it's hard to take it. So setting it up now, you have the meek sounding voice with the guy who is just trying to do his best. He doesn't know everything, but he's trying to do his best. And as he's trying to fit something to the wall outside his house, they know it all comes along. You're never gonna do that. What, you're gonna... It's a Phillips screwdriver, it's not a straight edge. My God, don't you know that? You don't even know the difference between one screwdriver and another? Are you insane? You're trying to do something... no, it doesn't go. You don't have a spirit level? Oh my God, who told you you could do that? Well, I thought I could just get it on the wall and straighten it up later. Straighten it up later? Are you kidding me? And so on.
Are you okay, hon?
And my wife is asking me, am I okay? Yes, I'm okay, dear. So, you got to understand that life is not always as we would like. And yes, dear, I'm okay. Here's another one. Live a life as a monument to your soul. Now, here's one that I like. If you're in a card game and you don't know who the sucker is, you're it. I like that. Too many people are thinking of security instead of opportunity. They seem more afraid of life than death. Now, this is definitely one that always crops up in letters that I get about people, from people who are concerned in what is a real way for them about making a change in their life. And they're thinking of security. And talked about this before, there's no such thing. The only security is in your head. Has to start there. And if all that you ever think of is that, wait a minute, this could all go very, very wrong, guess what? It will go wrong. And you have to be willing to say, I'm going to make this go right. And if it goes wrong, well, we'll have learned something. And then I'll try again and we'll make it go right. So you have to be willing to take a chance. And a guy that's much maligned because of the way... So too many people, as we said, think about security and they grow afraid of failure. And the failure hasn't happened yet and they're afraid of it. Now, you have to be willing to take a stand and say, I'm going to try to do this, and somehow I'll get round it if it all goes wrong. Now, one of the things that I did learn from doing something which I took it on thinking, I took it on as an artist, and I considered that, hey, it's not going to be difficult. And I remember that the people that said it was going to be hard, the people that said it was going to be easy actually said, well, it's easy, you know, you're just going to have to, and what it was painting a ceiling, and I was going to be working in black light, which I'd never worked with before at all. Now, this was a black light, a sky at night, so I was going to be putting stars. Now, you have to work in black light, so it's like working in darkness, and the paint comes alive only when the black light is played on it. It's the ultraviolet. So I'm there, and actually I don't really know what I'm going to do. So I get there, I've got the scaffolding up. It's a really big room, 900 square feet of ceiling that's going up there. and I don't know quite what I'm going to do. For one thing, I thought that it had to be done with a airbrush, and the airbrush that I had not been working that great, and I really wasn't that good at hairbrushing. Some people are absolutely brilliant and can use it, but it's a very temperamental instrument to use. So I thought, well, I'll go and I'll work it out. So I get there, get the black light on, and I'm about to start work, and the boss of the company that I'm working for walks in the door with his daughter, who is about 14 years old. He says, "Oh, yeah, yes, my daughter wanted to see your work." So I say, "Well, that's fun, isn't it?" Ah! So I started, and I got the airbrush out with my heart in my mouth, and I start the compressor. Well, we're at 10 o'clock at night, and everything around is deathly silent, and the compressor sounds like a Harley Davidson. So I switched the compressor off because we've been told that we can't make noise at night. So I was saved by a rule, and I said, "Oh, this is no good." I say, with absolute professional skill and certainty, we can't possibly work like this. So then I had to find a way. I had to find a way to put stars on a ceiling, and I did. I tried something, it worked to an extent, I changed it, it worked better, and then finally I was off to the races. Now they got very bored watching this because it wasn't this incredible performance that they thought. I was just doing a job, and they left. So I was able then to relax and experiment, and the job turned out really good. I have it in my portfolio to this day. So you have to be willing to do things which you may not feel that confident in doing. Change, it's a hard one. Now this is a good one, because this touches on something that I spoke about before, and that is, no man is a hero to his own valet. And that quote really belongs to another video that I did talking about how a man is often not accepted for his skill or how good he is, his talent, in his own country, city, province, family, relationship, and he has to walk away to get the recognition that he needs. It says, men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most of them pick themselves up and hurry on as if nothing happened. That was Winston Churchill. I always think about that thing of, you can have seen something that is absolutely incredible, but nobody else around you is even looking, and so these great changes that we seek to achieve can be empty, desolate places, because you've actually made a step forward and everybody else might be at that moment taking steps back. So you really need to know that you are moving and moving in the right direction. And the little joke to illustrate that was the two men walking along, and one man looks up, and in a blinding flash of enlightenment he sees God, and he points and said, "Look, God, there's God, look." And his friend goes like this. Oh my God, look at your fingernail. It's just filthy. He wasn't ready to see God. So, when we get these blinding flashes of enlightenment, not everybody around us is going to be ready. And for them, it didn't exist. The best and safest thing is to keep a balance in your life. Acknowledge the great powers around us and in us. If you can do that and live that way, you are really a wise man. And that was, I think, the old Greek philosopher, I think it was Greek, Euripides. And Danny Kaye, who was one of my favourite actors, he played Walter Mitty in a great movie. Walter Mitty was the man who actually saw everything as an impossible dream, and he lived it, but he forgot about reality, and it became a condition that even now, when people do this, they say, "Oh yes, he's a real Walter Mitty." I know a few. So Danny Kaye said, "Life is a great big canvas. Throw all the paint you can at it." Now, when I talk about pretending something, I think it was Cary Grant. Cary Grant was asked. He was one of the favourite. He was one of the favourite leading men, the handsome, tall, handsome leading men, and they hung quite a few pictures on him, which became very famous, and he was very successful. But they asked him, how did you start to be this great leading man? You're the most popular leading man. How? And he said, "Well, I wasn't always a leading man." He said, "But I wanted to be." So he said, "I started pretending that I'm this leading man." And he said, "I pretended, and every day I got up and I pretended I was a leading man, the great leading man." He said, "And then after a while, I didn't have to pretend." So obviously what he did was he got everybody around him to agree with his vision of himself. Muhammad Ali, who began life as Cassius Clay, probably one of the greatest boxers ever, he started off as a nobody, and he stood up and he declared that he was the greatest, and he declared that. And in this extraordinary way, he got chances that no one else would. And he was handsome, and he used to say, "Look at this face. All these other guys are all ugly, got broken noses. So look at my face. I'm pretty." And almost it was that people listened to this. He had so much mouth, he had declaring that he was the greatest, that he had a sting like a bee, and he had all of this stuff that he said about himself. And later they interviewed him and said, "Did you really think all of that stuff?" He said, "Of course I didn't. But it got me a chance." And actually he was a great boxer, and so what he said wasn't real at first, but it became reality. He made it his reality. What else can I find for you? Well, the most famous probably is about being yourself. And this was by William Shakespeare. "This above all, to thine own self be true." Now that's But the quote is actually much longer than that. This, above all, to thine own self be true. And it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. In other words, if you are true to yourself, you're not going to put on a show that's meaningless to anyone else. One of the guys in the movies which I liked because he was such an incredible success story was Sylvester Stallone. Now, Sylvester Stallone is no boxer, but yet he made his name as Rocky Balboa. I always thought Rocky Balboa should have had a face that was actually beaten to a pulp, because he used to say, "Come on, it don't hurt, that's not so bad." And he would goad the other person by saying, "Come on, smash my face in." So he was no Muhammad Ali, that's for sure. But when they interviewed him after he'd had incredible success, don't forget that when Rocky came out, that story, he realized that the idea of a punched out, punchy, beaten fighter being given a chance would make a great story. And he watched this happening with another fight, which I've forgotten which one it was now, but he watched it, and the story that I heard, which may or may not have been true, but it's a good story, the story that I heard was that he found himself a small apartment, and he blacked out all of the windows. He stuck masking tape and black dustbin liners on all of the windows, so the room was in absolute pitch darkness unless you turned the light on. He locked the door. He made sure that no one knew him for that, I'm guessing, so he wouldn't be disturbed. He didn't have a phone. All he had was, he had food and water, and he didn't have any clocks, so he didn't know what the time was. And he sat down and he wrote the screenplay for Rocky. And he slept when he was tired. When he couldn't keep his eyes open anymore, he slept. And then he woke up and he did that, and he ignored any formally made schedules of going to bed at 10 o'clock at night and getting up at, I don't know, 6 in the morning. He didn't do that. And he came out with the screenplay of Rocky. Now, that was where the story began. He believed that he should be the one to play Rocky. He wrote that for himself. Now, the film companies loved the story, and he was offered $300,000. Now, that's over $250,000, and he was broke. He was so broke he had to sell his dog. He tried to buy it back later, but the man wouldn't sell it. So he was offered $300,000, but they wanted someone like Paul Newman to play the part. And Stallone said, "No, I want to play the part." So they said, "No deal." And he went round all of the companies, and he kept going round until finally, I think they offered him $30,000 if he played the part, and he got a percentage of this film that nobody really believed would ever make it. And I guess on a limited budget, he helped to make that film. And well, we all know that that was one of, what's he up to, Rocky 100 right at the moment, something like that. And he believed in himself to the extent that he turned down every dollar that anybody else would have said, "Hell, wow, my film, my movie with Paul Newman in the lead? Yes. No. He said, I'm Rocky. And he became Rocky. Someone asked him, in the middle of all of this huge success, what's the secret? Tell us the secret. And he was talking to an interviewer, and he said, people ask me this. He said, guys come up and ask me, tell us the secret. He said, what can I tell them? There is no secret. You try, and you try, and you try, and you try, and you try again. And that was his secret. No secret. So, I'll end on this one. He says, it is extraordinary how extraordinary the ordinary person can be. It is extraordinary how extraordinary the ordinary person can be. And that's you. And me, maybe. Thanks for looking. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you know somebody that might enjoy listening to this, if you know somebody that might enjoy following our path to our goal, which is 100,000 subscribers, and we are on the path, and you have been helping. Now, if you have been a silent viewer, well, it's time to help us out. We are waiting for our non-profit, non-stock, non-profit status from coming through, and when that comes through, we're going to be back in business, helping people who are otherwise living without hope. And we think that that's a pretty good thing to head for. Don't forget then to share, and please subscribe. Bye for now.